afternoon. This is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I'm here live to take your U.S. immigration related questions. Please put your questions in the comments now. Before I get started, I want to hand out those two free consultations. So what you're going to do is you're going to call the number and you're going to give the staff members code word. But first, let me tell you, only two designated staff members can give you this free consultation. It's going to be either Eleanor or Jalen, and you have to be the first two individuals to call this number. We're handing out 10 this entire week. So go ahead. I'm going to put in the comments right now the phone number to call. Go ahead, call the number 561-405-4889 and give the code word love. So call 561-405-4889. It's already on the screen on YouTube, and on TikTok it's also on the screen at the top. You'll see the number. Call the number and give them the code word love. Now, if you call and you're one of the two first callers, so you're one of two first callers, then you will be able to get the free consultation. They will definitely let you know. Now, we also we have a large call center. So that means that this is why we're only designating the two, because what happens is those two individuals, they go ahead and answer calls, but once they get the two people on the phone, then the rest of the call team takes the flow over calls. So it's either Jalen or Eleanor who will give you the free consultation. Go ahead, call now and get that free consultation. If you didn't get it today, guess what? We're doing this for the rest of the week, where I'm going to give you a code word. You're going to call the number. So this is the first run. If you want to write down that number and just listen out for the code word next time, you can do that come tomorrow. So, find your strategy here to get in with those two free consultations. Tomorrow we'll have a different code word for you to get the two free consultations. Now, if you did not get the three consultations, guess what? I'm also providing discounts through the Christmas season. So continue to follow me for the free consultations, but you can also follow me and pay special attention to the discount programs that I have available through the Christmas season. Now, I want to be here to help you, because if you have been watching the news, you have been seeing what is happening in the news, and big immigration changes are coming. That's the theme that I'm seeing here now. Now, the tone of this is not necessarily positive. Now, we've seen very drastic immigration laws that are being passed in different states, and a lot of the justification for those laws being passed is that there are a number of people who are crossing the border, and now people are concerned about border security. And so, in response to the number of border crossings, we have now Texas, Florida passing laws, but these laws are really taking it to another level. I do understand that it is the role of our government to make sure that our borders are secure, that we do follow the law here. However, these laws are barely constructive. They're barely conducive to securing the border, because they focus mostly as a deterrent. But as we have seen through history, no matter how many of these stringent laws are passed to scare immigrants who are already in the United States, we still have these multitude of border crossings. And so it is not necessarily, it's never the first priority to criminalize immigrants here. And that's what's happening. is that these laws are in place to criminalize immigrants who are already here, um, then also to stigmatize immigrants, keep them from working. For example, here in Florida, the laws are so stringent that it has prevented a number of immigrants have left the state, and it has affected employers because employers are short of their workers. Texas, we're seeing the same thing. I'm already getting calls and advising individuals who are leaving Texas to go to other states because they're so frightened by the law. Now, if you have not been watching me already, I'm going to give you a brief summary of what the law in Texas is, right? That's the latest drastic law. That one basically makes it, has a harsher penalty for human smuggling, but human smuggling could include friends, family members, and individuals who are transporting undocumented immigrants or immigrants without their papers. And then the other big one here is the local law enforcement. Remember, local law enforcement, that's state, the sheriff, local police, town police, they have never been in charge of immigration, enforcing immigration laws. They have never done that. It has never been the role of the state to do that. It is a direct conflict because if you have the state enforcing immigration laws, and then you have the federal government, like ICE, for example, and CBP, Border Patrol, enforcing immigration laws, you might have a conflict. And where there's a conflict, the two are doing two different things. And that's dangerous because it means that the country isn't working together under the rule of law here. So I do suspect that this is an issue that came up in the past at the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court did side with the government here. So back in the early 2000s, Arizona passed draconian anti-immigrant laws like this, and the Supreme Court found that the law directly conflicted with federal law and the ability of the federal government to enforce the federal laws on immigration. So we have to see if they're going to challenge it, and what if it gets to the Supreme Court, what they could say. What I will say is that this is not a court that we've had previously. It is a conservative court, and anything can happen, right? Because we have seen where this Supreme Court has justified, for example, taking away a woman's stripping, essentially stripping and allowing states to take away a woman's right to choose. And so that we thought that was settled law. We thought women had a constitutional right to choose. The Supreme Court reversed that. So what I'm trying to say here is anything can happen. So we will see, we could possibly see the court side with the states and give us a justification as to why they're siding with the states here. So now that I've given you a little background here, let's talk about the big changes that are coming. Now, I've been talking about those laws on a state level, right? So I've been talking about Florida and Texas. Now we're actually looking at the federal government making these big changes. And as I said before, these are scary changes that could have very negative effects on immigrants who truly need to be here and truly need the relief when they're coming here. Now, what has happened is Congress is looking at, so the Republicans are looking at passing a bill that deters immigrants from crossing the border in order to secure the border. And what they've said now is that they are not going to budge. So, we have the war in Ukraine. And right now, they are looking to renew the funding to support Ukraine in the war. which the government, especially the White House, sees as very important for other national security reasons. Well, what's happening here is that now the Republicans are saying that they're not going to grant this funding until until they can pass. So they negotiate. The Democrats all come together to pass more stringent immigration laws to prevent to secure the border. Now, you know, you might be sitting here and saying, okay, border, what does that have to do with me? I know a number of Jamaicans, Caribbean people who have crossed the border to seek relief. So it is something that does affect people from all different countries, not just Haiti, for example, or Mexico or Venezuela, but it affects people all across the Caribbean as well. And you'd be surprised, even across Europe, you do have people that are coming across the border as well. But what I want to also point out here is that we the laws that will be passed will not only affect people that are coming through the border, but it is going to affect also people who are already here in the United States seeking immigration relief. So I'm going to go over some of those. So, what are some of the changes that the Republicans want in order to, if they get that, then they will think about granting the funding for Ukraine. And here's the part here that you need to keep in mind is that the Biden administration, they have now said they are open to listen and to actually carry out these more stringent immigration laws, the laws that don't offer relief. So there's less relief for immigrants here and more strictly enforced, limiting, restrictive laws and rules that will affect immigrants' ability to pursue relief. So, for one, let's talk about humanitarian parole. Now, if you've come across the border, you may have been paroled. So individuals are paroled if there is a public benefit, there's a significant public benefit, or there's an urgent humanitarian need. So, for example, in Haiti, we have a number of people who are trying to escape the terrible conditions that are in Haiti right now. And they come to the border. And so many of the Haitian populations have been paroled based on that humanitarian parole. Same with Venezuela. And even some, for example, some Jamaicans have been paroled because this is a type of permission that the federal government can grant immigrants to come into the country. They don't have to pass laws to let these individuals into the country based on this humanitarian need, meaning they need relief, they need protection. There's an urgent humanitarian need, or there's a significant public benefit, and so they can use that as a basis to let them into the country to stay here for a little. It's not unlimited. And it is not a direct path to citizenship, but it does allow, for example, some immigrants to come here and become unified with their family, where then they can find a path to permanent residence if they qualify in that way. So, what they're aiming to do here now is to stop the humanitarian parole that is being granted by the federal government at the border. And the danger with that is you take away the government's ability to make judgment calls on who needs relief. It means that a lot of people who are suffering, who are coming here to the United States for a safe haven, will be denied, and they would have faced a harrowing journey. They would have made it to the US just to be turned away and possibly face greater dangers in another country. Like, for example, they may have come through Mexico and now they're stuck there and facing additional dangers and violence because of that. So that's the main harm there, is that it restricts individuals' ability to get relief. That means that if you're here, you have family members who need to urgently come to the United States, say their lives are at risk, their lives are being threatened, then humanitarian parole, if that discretion is taken away, they will not be able to get into the country based on the government's discretion. And when I say discretion, it means the choice, like their judgment. The federal government, the people at the border get to make a judgment call on whether this individual should be allowed in on a temporary basis to seek further relief. Now, the other is asylum. Now, I do represent a number of Jamaican immigrants who are seeking asylum. And what they're saying is that they are trying to stop people from coming. Some people come through the border, but you don't need to come through the border. You can come in, say you come with a visa, and you can't go back to your country. You can apply for asylum then. Well, what they're saying is that they are going to make the standards, they're going to up the standards for the credible, fair interview. Now, when somebody comes into the country, so say they come through the airport and immediately they declare asylum, or say they come through the border and they are seeking asylum, they go through a credible, fair interview. And that is it is not as stringent as the requirements for the final decision for asylum, but it is to see if there is some basis for asylum. Is there a chance that this person could be granted asylum? So it's not meant to be the final decision. So when somebody passes a credible, fair interview, it means that they're either going to be referred to immigration court, or they're going to be submitted. Their application for asylum is going to be submitted. They can then apply for asylum when they're permitted to come into the country. So they're saying that they're going to make it harder for individuals to get this asylum, because the other side's argument is people are just coming here claiming asylum, but they don't really deserve asylum, they don't really qualify for asylum. So they're making everybody suffer for what may happen in a few cases, right, where the person truly fears coming they are truly fear, have a fear of returning to their country, so they come to the United States, right? And they're saying that they're going to now make everybody suffer and make it very, very, the standards very strict, so that they cannot gain asylum that easily. They're saying, once again, that this will serve as a deterrent. However, the other side of this argument is they've passed a number of damaging laws in the past, and I've never really seen it. The situation at the border just continues to escalate. And the question here is that truly the way to approach this? And then is it the correct approach based on what is supposed to be the values of the United States to make everybody suffer for what happens in some cases? The other one is expedited removal. So this one is the most alarming one yet. Now, I've talked about the federal government's moves to expand expedited removal, and they're actually, even the Biden administration is open to doing this. Expedited removal is where you don't get a chance to go to court. You have an immigration officer, border patrol officer, or the CBP officer that just on the spot, they determine that you don't deserve to be here because you don't qualify for one reason or the other. There's no legal review, there's no attorney representation, there's no court hearing, there's no second chances. They just send you right back out of the country. Now, usually expedited removal is individuals who recently crossed the border within the recently crossed the border or came into the country within the last 14 days and are within 100 miles of the border can be subjected to expedited removal, meaning you could be apprehended and sent back within that 2 week period. Well, the other concession here that the Republicans want in order to grant the funding is they want this expedited removal to be expanded. That means that individuals who are here already could possibly now face expedited removal. It may be expanded nationally. So where it's not just 100 miles of the border, but they could go anywhere into the country and then take somebody into custody and send them out without a court hearing, without a chance to explain, without a legal review, without any avenues, second chances to seek relief. So in this case, uh, having expedited removal means that anybody who's already here, if you have undocumented status, could possibly become vulnerable to these types of expanded policies, expanded expedited removal. Now, we don't know. They're still negotiating right now, and Congress is about to adjourn for the holidays, so they're trying to come up with a solution. But the way that the Biden administration looks at it is they don't want to lose funding for Ukraine, and so now they are willing to talk about those tough immigration stances that the Republicans want. And some of them can be damaging. So I'm watching the situation and I'm looking as I get more specific information, I will definitely keep you updated. But this is where, once again, I am saying, there's this climate now that there's this escalating climate where there's a lot of uh, advocacy for very tough immigration reform. So it's moving away. The talk about immigration reform is moving away from positive immigration reform, where immigrants who are already here can seek relief, to implementing more harsh penalties and subjecting individuals uh, to prevent them from applying for asylum or prevent them from applying for relief. And as we approach the election, that's going to get worse because now nobody wants to talk about the positive immigration reform, the fair and just immigration reform. Everybody wants to know what are you gonna do about the immigration problem. That's the tone I'm hearing. What are you gonna do about? So nobody, even on the Democratic side, we do have them. They're a little softer on their proposals here. And they are advocating more for work permits and fair and just ways to both secure the border, but at the same time to seek immigration relief for those who need it. Now, I'm kind of seeing it shift more to, how can to secure the border, we need to completely shut down immigration relief, shut down immigration reform, and move towards the security. Right now, there is relief available, and this is what I'm working on for my current clients. Is we have the relief available. While everybody's case is different, this is what I am looking at. I'm looking at ways that my clients and ways that individuals can qualify for relief while it is here, because we don't know what can happen after the election. We've seen the changes in Florida. We've seen the changes in Texas. Now, where the Biden administration has tried to balance, have a balance between border security and also have balance it out with fair and just policies. as we get closer to the election, that rhetoric is changing, and it's moving more towards one where they're becoming stricter. So we want to make sure that uh, you seek the options now. Seek the options now so we can get to work and get the immigration relief while it is here. Because even though they're in talks about these changes right now, there are things that can be done now, but you need to make the move to find out what that is. So prioritize this. Um, I am treating this for my clients. I'm treating this with urgency. I want to get their documents out as soon as possible because I understand how quickly things can change, and you need to do the same. Right now, you need to prioritize that. Prioritize looking at what options you qualify for now. All right. So that's going to be what I have to say. I know this, I did a lot of talking because I think this is important, just to let you know that this is happening. Now, I want to answer some questions. So go ahead, put your questions in the comments, and I will go ahead and answer your questions. So put those in the comments now, and I'll answer. Now, as I said before, my schedule is filling up. Right now, we're looking at early January. So go ahead and schedule your appointment now because it's not going to get better. So if you need the help, go ahead and schedule your own appointment. Next week, uh, next week we'll be doing discounts. So if you want to look out for the discounts, you can do that. But as I said before, also make sure that you're treating your case with urgency, your situation with urgency. So get on my schedule ASAP. Now, you can do that by going to the link in the profile on Instagram, on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. Go to the description of the video. Below the video, you'll see the link. Go to that link. You'll see a button that says schedule your own appointment. You can do it that way, or you can call the office. The number, so I type the number in here. You look for immigration lawyer Sharifa. The number is going across the screen on YouTube. And on TikTok, it's at the very top of the screen. If you scroll up, you'll see the number. Go ahead, call, schedule your appointment. Let's talk about how I can help you. And let's see, in the consultation, what I do is I ask very specific questions to see if I have like about 20 different options that I look for to determine whether you fall under one of those options to be able to get your status here and get your work permit here, get relief here. So it is very useful. And then I also provide you advice where you are in need of legal advice. All right, let me go ahead and answer questions now. So I'm going to scroll through. I'm going to work on getting to everybody's, hopefully. So just bear with me here. I'm scrolling through now. Can a student on F1 can get VAWA? What is the process? Yes. So it doesn't matter if you're currently on status, you can get VAWA. Now, where VAWA you may not be an option is, say you came here on a K1, a fiance visa to get married. The fiance visa is where you're coming on a special visa to get married to a US citizen here in the United States. Then say you got here and you failed to get married to this person for some reason, and then you left them, and then maybe later on you met somebody else, married them, but they turned out to be mistreating you, and you're thinking about VAWA. Unfortunately, in that case, you would not be able to pursue that adjustment of status through VAWA because the K1 prohibits adjustment of status if you didn't marry the person that you came to marry on the fiance visa. So that's an exception. But if you have status here, but you're being mistreated by a citizen, citizen or resident spouse, parent, or adult child who's 21 or up, then VAWA is an option whether you have status or not. Now, VAWA, let me just mention here, VAWA also covers those who came across the border without permission. You don't have to have a visa or show that you have a visa. If you're here without your papers, VAWA could be for you. Can you come through the border and seek VAWA? Yes, absolutely. So the focus of this is: are you being mistreated by a citizen or resident, spouse, parent, or adult citizen child? If you are, even if you're here without your papers, even if you cross the border, you could qualify for this. And here's another thing. Now, if you say you came across the border, stayed for a year without permission, then you left, then you came back, that does lead to a permanent bar where you can't qualify for anything because it's called a permanent bar. But in the case of VAWA, if that back and forth across the border was in some way related to the mistreatment by the spouse, the parent, or the adult child, they could forgive that permanent bar. So that's also one thing to keep in mind. That's how flexible it is to make sure that individuals who are entitled to this relief get it. But this is where I'm talking about the changes in policies. Is what they're saying now is they're going to make it harder for everybody because of some instances of issues in the immigration system, and maybe some types of applications. So they're making everybody suffer for that. And so this is where it's important to make sure you seek the relief now before we see changes like that happening. I'm hoping that things will take a turn for the better. So, for example, if the election turns out where we have the Democratic side, which is more amenable towards positive immigration reform, then we could see it go differently. But I say plan for the future and make sure that you're getting legal representation, you're getting a full understanding of what your options are here. What if your work permit and I-130 says taking longer than expected? It means it's backlogged. Um, Oh, thank you. I filed for my husband, and the estimated time constantly changes for work permit from 1 week to experiencing delays and actively being reviewed. There are always delays, always delays. I would say it's less common to get a work permit in a week. So just hang tight on that one. How soon after submitting a VAWA case do I do biometrics? And how long after biometrics do I get work permit and travel document? So I don't usually go by how long after the biometrics. It's the work permit usually comes about 9 months to 12 months after the filing of the application. I had an asylum case in close to 5 years. Are there other options to expedite this case? So there is always the option to expedite, but you have to meet specific criteria, and it's everybody's experiencing this backlog, so they may not grant you an expedite just because everybody's in the same boat, unless you can really show that there's an urgent humanitarian need, or that there's some kind of error on the side of the immigration that caused this delay. or that there is some kind of severe economic loss to a party that's involved in your case. But that those are some of the bases here. Can your spouse petition for you if they receive housing benefit? Yes. Now the question, though, usually what happens is if the citizen uh, is receiving public benefits like housing benefits, it may also indicate that their income is low. And if their income is low, then it means that they may not qualify to show they meet the income requirements for what's called the I-864 form, the affidavit of support. So this is where you need to make sure you verify your spouse's income to ensure it meets the income requirement. Now, how do you do that? You go to the I-864P form. You can do that at uscis.gov. And when you scroll down, hit forms. When you scroll down to the form I-864P form, then you'll see a chart based on the state and the household size. You'll see the income that you need to have. Now, if your spouse, for example, has three dependents, three children who are under the age of 21, because under immigration law, if you're under 21, you're still a child for under immigration. So if your spouse has, say, three children who are under the age of 21, plus you and the spouse, then that would be a household of five. So if it's just you and your spouse, that's a household of two. So that's how you'll calculate the household size. Does USCIS ask for biometrics for other reasons after filing for asylum? So the biometrics is usually done for the background check. So usually it's if they're asking for the biometrics again, maybe it's because they're doing another check on your background. Does VAWA have an interview? So the VAWA petition, you'll see that they always reserve the right to do an interview if they deem it necessary. But for the VAWA petition, because there are two stages of the VAWA process, you go through the VAWA process first, then after you're granted the VAWA, you are go on to adjustment of status to get your green card. So at the VAWA stage, where you're applying for the VAWA petition, there's usually no interview. So you usually just get the deferred action and you automatically get another 2-year work permit for the VAWA. And then when you do go over to adjustment of status, if they do have questions, they will schedule the interview. Can you get a work permit if you're undocumented but had a U.S. child while you were waiting for a status adjustment? It depends. I couldn't tell you just being undocumented alone. So being undocumented alone is not going to qualify you for a work permit. If anybody's telling you that they can just get you a work permit and they're not telling you how they plan to get you this work permit or how you qualify for it, you should not be trusting them because a ton of people are also being scammed this way. But what I would say is if you're undocumented, but you are going through adjustment of status, for example, you said while you're waiting for adjustment of status, if you're going through adjustment of status, then yes, you could qualify for a work permit. But I don't know what the chances are of you getting approved for this benefit, seeing that I don't know anything else about your background or the basis for the adjustment of status. That's where it's very important to consult with your attorney or get representation. Is Tennessee a good state to file for a green card for a spouse? So no matter where you are in the United States, it's going to be the USCIS office that does it. This is the federal government. The states don't make decisions. But normally, what I notice is you'll have USCIS offices that sort of fit the tone of the state. So, for example, you have Tennessee tends to be more conservative, and versus New York, and so I would say, is it a good state to file for a green card for the spouse? I don't usually advise on state, like which state is good, because it's the federal government making the decision anyway. But what I would say is you need to make sure if you're filing with your spouse that you submit a good, solid application. That way you're not worrying about who is going to be looking at the application, because you would have submitted a solid application. This is where though you have to make sure you schedule an appointment. If the beneficiary has CHIP because of pregnancy, how does that affect the process? So right now, as the policies are, this is where I'm saying now is the time, because that could change. We could see the restrictions on that, but right now they're not going to penalize immigrants who get public benefits like food stamps or medical care, uh, because of pregnancy. So this it should not affect anything as long as you did qualify for it. Now, if they saw evidence of fraud or anything like that, that's a different story. But where you did benefit from it, you got it, you're pregnant. It should not affect your immigration process here in the United States. Now, when it comes to the visa, that could be a different matter. It could affect you if you're renewing your visa, but if you're applying for, say, adjustment of status here, it shouldn't affect it. Okay, so after USCIS asks for medical and additional evidence, if any, how long after can I look for date or the green card? It differs. So I've seen anywhere from 4 weeks after to months to a year after. So it's going to depend. And it depends on what kind of additional evidence. If it's more complex, it's going to take longer. Is Tennessee and Alabama good state to file for green cards? As I said before, the USCIS is a federal office, but I tend to see the tone in the offices uh, tend to match the culture of the state. So Tennessee and Alabama tend to be more conservative. And so because of that, you can expect them to be a lot more conservative in the way that they process your application. So this is where though it's so important to make sure you're represented. Do not assume that you're married, so this is such an easy process, because all you have to do is show your the marriage certificate, because they will look a lot deeper than your marriage certificate. So, once you are married, you're living as a married couple, um, you should not be worried about what state you're filing in, but no matter where you're filing, you need to make sure that that evidence is presented properly, or your process can turn into a nightmare. If I came across the border and got denied asylum, can I get married to my kid's father to adjust status? That gets a lot more complex, because if you are denied asylum, I don't know if you're denied by an officer or by the court, but it means that if you are denied, they possibly ordered removal, or you are now referred to the immigration court. And if you're referred to the immigration court, it means you're now in removal proceedings. When you're in the removal proceedings, then if you do get married while in removal proceedings, they hold you to a higher standard to show proof that your marriage is real by clear and convincing evidence. That's in immigration law, that's very, very, very difficult to meet. I have a medical visa. Me and my son got surgery. Okay, I'm so sorry. Hope all is well and that the surgery went well. But I'm not sure what the question is. What qualifies an undocumented individual to get a work permit? So, as I said before, there are a number of circumstances. I look at circumstances, family members, background to determine whether you can qualify for a work permit or relief here. Now, what I will say is the work permit is linked to some form of immigration benefit that you qualify for or relief. So you have to qualify for, and that's where the consultation is essential. Is undocumented and overstay the same thing? So if you overstayed and you're living here and you don't have your immigration papers, then yes, it's the same thing. It's for anybody whose papers are not current right now. If I come through the border, seek asylum, can I get married to a U.S. citizen and get a green card? It's a possibility. Would have to look though. Did you get paroled into the country or did you get referred to immigration court? The two different scenarios make a huge difference. If I was denied twice, what should be your next step? So right now, your next step would require a consultation because I wouldn't know what your next step is until I can evaluate why you were denied and whether you qualify for other forms of relief. All right, so moving through. So thanks for your patience. I'm going through to quickly answer some questions before I have to head out. Hi there, Mel. It's nice to see you. Uh, Hi there, Rod Wayne. So, what are the possibilities of me getting my green card in VAWA between 15 to 18 months? And is it normal that USCIS not to acknowledge they received RFE over a year after submitting it? I would say yes, it's fairly common that they don't update sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. The best thing you can do is you can contact them. So VAWA is sort of more difficult because they do require you to submit everything in writing. This is truly like prehistoric type of process because when you do in writing, sometimes it just goes into oblivion and you still never hear anything. But we as attorneys, the good thing is we do have access to email. We email an office, and only the attorneys can do that. We email the office if we have any doubts or questions, and they can tend to confirm whether they received it or not if we're really in doubt. Another thing, though, is make sure, and you probably did this already, but for those of you who are, you're looking to get started with the process, make sure if you're going to send anything to immigration, you track it. Do not send anything and not know where it's going. For example, our office uses FedEx because we want to track every single thing that goes into the USCIS to confirm whether the USCIS got it. So that's one way to just reassure yourself because yes, it's fairly common for them not to give you an update. Oh, thanks so much, Mark. So Mark says, "Good day. For all your information, it's always nice to listen, watch your sessions. Hi to your team and the community. Thanks so much." What about someone that already has a work permit? They threw out the asylum case. So if they threw out the asylum case, that work permit technically is no longer valid. But if they threw out the asylum case in court, it doesn't say because they're terminating some cases now because the courts are so inundated that they're using their discretion to terminate some cases. If they terminate the case, then you can go back and apply for asylum outside of the court. So that may be an option, and then you could possibly get your work permit. To renew my work card based on VAWA, do I have to pay the filing fee? So usually not. No, there in some cases. So if you got the waiver, so if you got a waiver first, and you didn't have to pay at first, then unless you can show you need a waiver again, they expect the fee. However, if you paid the fee to start with, and now you're filing for the renewal, they don't usually require the fee. What evidence do I need for I-751 solo when spouse refuses to sign the application? This is where consultation and representation is going to be very important. Remember, evidence is not a one size fits all, and it depends on what's going on in your marriage. Hi there, greetings in Florida. So if I file for hardship work permit, so there's no such thing as a hardship uh, work permit. So I'm not sure what type of application you applied for. What documents are needed to send in renewing your EAD card? So I don't usually get into forms or evidence because that's more specific. I'd have to represent you to be able to advise on that. And actually, at that point, I'd advise you, but I'll be doing the sending. Can I file I-130 for a child that was adopted after 16, but before 18 if I got custody for Holla? So this is more complex. If you adopted a child after 16, then usually they would not qualify for being petitioned. In order for you to petition for an adopted child, it has to be where they were adopted before the age of 16. Can you file for your child when you're filing for VAWA? Yes, the children can be included. All right, so I'm going to spend the last few minutes now here, and then I'll be back tomorrow. So remember, tomorrow we'll be doing another 2 free consultations. So join me tomorrow. Get your phones ready so that as soon as you hear the code word, you can call the office and let them know the code word so that you can get the free consult. Now, this is only for the first 2 callers, and we're going to keep doing that until Friday. Does getting WIC for a baby affect your green card? No, it should not. Is safe travel with emergency advance parole pending VAWA? Is it safe? Generally, but is it safe for you? Is it advisable for you? It's going to depend on your circumstances. Now keep in mind that this is not personal legal advice, it's general information. So that means that whenever you are worried about something in your situation, that's where it is on you to make sure you call and schedule your appointment. My calendar is filling up, so make sure that you get on it ASAP so that we can help you. I want to help you. My priority is to get things done throughout next year to make sure whatever happens, I'm praying for the best, but whatever happens, you're covered because you filed early. If my daughter was filed for and DNA shows he is not her dad, can she still keep her citizenship? Wow. Okay. So that is definitely a more complex question here. There are some issues here. Now, in some cases, if the child is legally accepted as the daughter, so under the law of the country, they are the daughter, the child of that person, they can still get their citizenship. However, it's difficult here to say what the outcome could be. This is where it's so important to get legal advice because that is very complex, and that's going to definitely require some more in-depth discussions about the issue, and what happened here. Can I file I-139 for a child that was adopted after her 16th birthday but before 18? Oh, so the I-130. So again, if you adopt the child, it has to be before they turn 16. Neeks, Eve. Is it okay to file concurrently when doing the adjustment of status? In most cases, that's preferable, but I would have to have a discussion with you. I found a work opportunity overseas for USA government project, but my case is pending. So yeah, I'm not sure. You would have to get legal advice. I wouldn't know what the issue is there. If I'm married with a citizen, can I get my green card in the USA without going to the country? Now, if yes, but it depends on how you enter the country. If you enter the country uninspected, meaning nobody gave you permission to come in, then it may not. So it just depends. That's where we have to talk. If you came in legally with your visa, or you are paroled into the country, or if you were given parole in place because your spouse is a citizen who is in the military, then you could. All right, that's going to be it for me today. Thanks so much. I'm going to catch up on your questions tomorrow. So if you did not get to ask your questions, come back tomorrow. I'm going to focus on answering your questions tomorrow, and I'll also give you some updates where I can. All right. Have a great day. Thanks so much, everyone, for your time. I will talk to you tomorrow. All right. Bye-bye. And remember, tomorrow at 12:30.